Good morning, everyone. My name is Eugene Nicandri. I'm sitting in for Dennis Trainer, who's regular chairman of the governance committee meeting. This is a meeting of the governance committee. I'd also like to welcome Dennis Trainer, who's joining us by video, the chairman, John Kamel, trustees McGibbon and Gonzalez. I'd like to welcome the staff members who are present and those who are watching by video. This meeting has been scheduled pursuant to the open meetings law of the state of New York, and I'd call the meeting to order. First of all, I'd ask if any members have any changes to the proposed agenda. If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve that agenda.
No changes, so moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The agenda is adopted. Next, I'd ask for a motion to conduct an executive session under Section 105 of the Public Officers Law to discuss the employment history of a particular person.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We are going into executive session. We'll be back shortly.
I move that we reconvene in open session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're back in open session. It should be noted on the record that no votes were taken during the executive session. Next item on our adopted agenda is the discussion agenda and the diversity, equity, and inclusion program update. And Nancy Harvey is going to update the board. Nancy? She'll be here in a second.
Wait, Judge, did you just call Nancy?
Yeah. Thanks, Nancy.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, my mask. Good morning, trustees. Good morning, Gail. Good morning, Knife and Canals colleagues, members of the public. I'm Nancy Harvey. I'm the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for the New York Power Authority and Canals Corporation. And I'm pleased to be here this morning to give you an update on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion program this year. The Office of Civil Rights and Inclusion provides thought leadership around fostering an inclusive culture and promoting a diverse and engaged workforce. With NYPA's strong top-down commitment to be an industry leader, our office has programs and initiatives that educate, engage, and empower staff through partnerships and collaborations that bring our values to life. OCRI continues to engage and work collaboratively with strategic business unit partners such as talent development or talent acquisition team, corporate communications, EMC, the trustees, and other stakeholders across the organization, as well as with our employee resource group members. We lead the DE&I working group alongside environmental justice, which is led by Lisa Wansley, and supplier diversity, which is led by Victoria Daniels. And we provide monthly updates to the DE&I committee, led by Gil and Justin Driscoll. Earlier this year, we provided you with the first of 2 updates on our planned activities through year end. We are in the final stretch of year 1 of a 5-year DE&I plan. And I'm happy to report to you that we are currently on track to complete all our planned activities and more, and this will continue straight through year end. So we have exceeded the planned projects, like I just said, thanks to the dedication and commitment of our stakeholders across the enterprise. And at every stage of the talent life cycle, in order to build the pipeline, capabilities, equity and accountability, and in order to continue to strengthen our inclusive culture. So since I last updated you, we embarked on strengthening and updating some of our initiatives, accelerated others, and we introduced new initiatives as well. So you had the full list in the reading, so I'm just going to touch on some of the initiatives. I'll start with the ones that we updated and accelerated. Building consistency in management for diversity, equity, and inclusion competency through education and practice. We accelerated that. We conducted training to mitigate bias in performance reviews. And just, I think, 18th, today's Tuesday? I forgot what day of the week it is. I'm sorry.
Yesterday.
So yesterday we launched a new training for management, and it's called Decide, and it is aimed at mitigating bias in everyday business decisions. We are targeting 450 people managers across the organization with this effort. Another thing that we've done, we've worked with our employee resource groups, and our employee resource groups serve as a powerful mechanism to build connection, inclusivity, and community within the underrepresented groups of our organization. We improved the framework of these employee resource groups and bolstered the professional development component of the ERG leaders. And we're having internal trainings at quarterly meetings with these leaders. And we're also having engagements with external DEI experts that we invite our ERG members to participate with. Most importantly, our employee resource groups continued to actively support their peers with over 32 engagements, and they have approximately 400 active members. And it's important, especially as we continue to feel the effects of the pandemic. And this week, we started our return to work to the office. So our ERGs continue to support peers around issues that they may be having with returning to the workplace. Our office created more transparency in the investigation process through a newly developed set of guidelines and procedures. We developed and conducted Know Your Rights trainings, and that was attended by approximately 400 employees. And we have plans to go into other business units to continue to share information about knowing their rights and answering questions in person. Another thing that we did in order to capture the diversity, equity, and inclusion related data, the employee engagement survey, there's one that's going to be deployed soon. It will include specific DE&I related questions to inform management on our effectiveness, as well as how our employees are feeling, whether or not they feel our employees' perception of inclusiveness and their perception of fairness. We launched some new programs as well. And one of the top things that I'm particularly proud to talk to you about today is the Pathways Professional Development Program. The Pathways program creates a career development and upward mobility for our employees of color. It's a 6-month program and a learning experience that will not only strengthen the workplace impact of the participants, it will also provide them with a meaningful mentorship experience. It will help our employees to build their internal network and otherwise raise their visibility in the organization, ultimately preparing them for future career opportunities. This is set to commence by month's end, and it will feature 17 confirmed participants with EMC and senior staff serving as mentors. Another thing that we've done this year, we are introducing a DE&I competency to the organization to reinforce our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we're going to hold each other accountable for how we treat one another. The competency is for managers. There's a competency for individual contributors as well. It will be embedded in the performance appraisal process in 2022. We completed the first DE&I audit and identified a DE&I scorecard with comprehensive metrics and key performance indicators to measure and track our DEI progress. The audit included workforce analysis of 3 years data and benchmarked against 15 energy, power, and gas utilities comprising the Women in the Workplace benchmarks. It included over 120 participants in listening sessions. And out of that, those participants, approximately 50% were women, approximately 60% were people of color. So we got a wide range of viewpoints. We interviewed 8 senior leaders and 10 plus policy owners as well. And this was all done to identify opportunities for us to improve our DE&I program. In addition, to hold ourselves accountable to be transparent, NYPA will release its first annual DEI report, and we're also planning to communicate the diversity, equity, and inclusion audit findings to the organization shortly. For 2022, we will continue to build the capabilities of our ERGs with increased presence at the sites and with new work streams. Our managers will continue to mitigate bias through education and training. We expect to assess the results of the engagement survey and leverage the data to develop interventions to the results. We will continue to track our progress and update the organization, the DE&I steering committee, and the governance committee on how we are doing. We will continue to assess, update, and develop policies and programs across the talent lifecycle in order for NYPA to make meaningful change. And I would like to thank you, the trustees. I'd like to thank EMC and our partners and colleagues for their continued engagement and support. It's not always easy to hear some of the things that we're hearing, but it is important that we listen and take action. This is a journey that requires our collective commitment and action to keep us honest and to hold ourselves accountable as we progress through our 5-year plan towards our Vision 2030 goal. And I am just happy to be able to work alongside my colleagues in moving this forward.
Anybody have any questions, Nancy?
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No.
Okay, not really a question, just a couple of thoughts. I appreciate the work, and I think we were chatting about this earlier, because we realized this hasn't been a focus for a long period of time in the organization. And so you're hitting the ground running and moving forward to try to build since we're in the time of COVID and pandemics, to build antibodies within the system around the appreciation of DEI and making sure that it's understood that this is important for the organization, and that our embrace of these kinds of values and principles will only make us a better organization, better able to deliver to our customers, better able to participate in our communities. And so I heard you say that we've exceeded our plans. And so then the question I had is, one take of that is that everyone fully embraced what it is that you're trying to do, or are we setting enough stretch goals for ourselves and what we can achieve, and making sure that we are stretching ourselves and are focused on not just the process of these discussions, but actual outcomes and what they're delivering with our workforce, what they're delivering in our communities. And so getting comfortable that you feel that we are stretching ourselves, we're stretching the organization enough to reach more outcomes, rather than, yes, we've been able to, do a training or, incorporate, a workbook or a work plan. So just your thoughts.
So it's the work that we're doing right now. We're putting things in place to build capabilities that we will lead to results that we want to see, our aspirations in 5 years. So in exceeding the plan is the different components and initiatives that we think will help to get us there, right? And so this year we went beyond what the plan was. We didn't stay within that very, I don't want to call it very narrow, because it is very ambitious, but we thought of more programs, and if we had the space and the capability to do it, we just worked with our partners in talent development, especially in accelerating and moving forward with the program. So I think, to your point, I do agree. This is more about building behaviors that's going to get us to achieve the goals that we want to see and the changes that we want to see in the organization.
And building off of that, what's your read of the organizational engagement? How readily is what we're doing, what you're leading, being embraced? Is there enthusiasm and energy? Is there reluctance, resistance, all of the above? Are we in a better place now than when you started 9-12 months ago? What's your informal read of all of that?
So I think we're in a better place than we were 12 months ago. We have definitely started transforming the organization and becoming more mature in talking about the issues that affect certain populations and sectors of our employees, right? That being said, there is still the challenge of ensuring that we are addressing everyone's issues, right? We have different pockets everywhere. Culture upstate is different from downstate geographically. So we do have pockets of employees who don't understand or disagree or think their issues should be addressed as well. So I would say that the employees of color, the multicultural ERG, those employees probably feel more comfortable or learning to trust. I did get such positive feedback when we rolled out the Pathways program, for instance. The multicultural ERG held a special session, and it was attended by, I want to say about 300 people approximately, don't quote me, but it was very, very well received. And the feedback we got from having that program for individual contributors was positive. So I think that we are moving the needle, but just understanding this is the very beginning and we have a lot.
Yeah. But it needs to be embraced and the level of engagement, enthusiasm, that's what I'm trying to read in this letter.
With the release of the DER report and the first DER report and communicating out the findings of the audit, I expect that there will be even more engagement, and we'll be starting to build more trust across the organization.
This can only echo Tracy's point. As a board, we're looking and we're enthusiastically embracing process and program with the expectation it will yield the results and outcomes as opposed to just improve process and program. So yeah, I want to ensure you feel that level of support and the organization understands that that's our collective expectation. So
we're about to launch that engagement survey. Really key that the organization, how they're feeling about feeling included, right, and the fairness. So I think out of that data, we'll know more.
Okay, look forward to hearing the outcomes of that.
And if I could just take 1 second, I want to just publicly thank Gil. I know he's moving on, and it's sad.
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
What?
Cat's out of the bag. Man.
Oh my God, for a minute I was like, oh wait, did I just do something wrong? But no, I just want to publicly thank Gil for his leadership, especially over the past 2 years. It's been quite a journey, and you're a fearless leader, and I appreciate your work.
Thank you. You guys do a great job. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Victoria Daniels is about to present on supplier diversity.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Victoria Daniels. Thank you so much for having me today. Thank you, trustees, President Kionis, the public, NYPA staff, Canal staff. Thank you for allowing me to present and update you on our supply diversity program. Just wanted to provide you a quick recap from our last meetings. You provided us a $12 million incremental budget investment, and you approved this over the next 5 years. The investment would allow us to develop and expand our programs, increase spend assist suppliers in building their capacity, reduce barriers, deliver supply diversity training organizationally to NYPA and Canal staff, to our suppliers, and expand outreach within New York State and outside of New York State that would allow us to increase our supplier base. Suppliers who currently can't supply us with the goods and services that we need. I'm happy to tell you that we're on track with the goals that we set for ourselves. We developed 11 initiatives, which are divided into 3 sections: programs, policies, and operations. We work with Deloitte to develop a supplier roadmap. We wanted to make sure that these initiatives are on track. We wanted to ensure that we had spoken to our suppliers that the goals that we set for ourselves were the correct goals. So I wanted you to know that, and I'm really proud of this, New York State's fiscal year is 2021. It's not like our NYPA fiscal year from January to December. We met those goals. Unfortunately, I can't tell you what they are publicly. They'll be announced in December at the MWB Inform, but we met them. And that's in the midst of COVID when we started our program. In the midst of COVID, we did well. So right now, we're working with our internal partners to develop our champions training. And that's done. It's out right now to do the voiceovers. So once that comes back, we'll be able to put champions training out, and that'll be done in the next couple of weeks. We've also hosted over 12 supplier outreach events and educational programs. So by the end of the year, that'll be about 14, and that's a lot. We've hired staff, and thank you very much for that. We have a full staff. We lost one of our staff members who retired this year after 40 years of service at NYPA. Our Supply Diversity Mentor Protege Pilot Program has launched. We have 3 mentors and 3 mentees. We have Michael's Geomatics that are working together, WSP with Macadeve, and then we have Voight and Hunter's Painting. And internally, we've awarded the K-Mike Group to work on the surety bonding training program. We also have value contracts that will be brought before you today for your approval. The other thing that is the most important thing that I want you to know about is the oversight and controls are being put in place to ensure that the suppliers who participate in all the programs that we bring before you are the appropriate suppliers for the programs. Because we know that once we have a small business program, once we have a full mentor protege program, once we have that surety bonding training program, there are going to be tons of suppliers out there that want to be involved in these programs that should not be involved in the programs. For you to know, we're on top of that. New York State ensures through regulatory requirements, Executive Law 15A, we have OGS, who disseminates the SDVOB certification. ESD takes care of the MWBE certification. We have our own policies and procedures in place. There are applications that have to be submitted, documentation that has to be submitted, and also some financial information that has to be done. All of that will be taken care of. Stringent requirements have to be met. So we've thought about this. We'll work within all of those guidelines, and all of these things have to be passed and met before anybody can apply for any of these programs. So by year end, we're working to develop organizational LMS training throughout the organization for NYPA and for canals on diversity in the supply chain. So top level, everyone understands what Executive Law 15A is, why we have a supply diversity program, why it's important, why does NYPA care about it, and why we want the organization to care about it. Why should employees care? That's being developed now. A supply diversity newsletter. So everyone in the organization understands what we've been doing. so they can share the information, so they have better understanding of it. We're working on a supply diversity virtual expo for January the 20th. So instead of having it in person, we're not quite sure we can be in person fully yet. We're working on the bigger expo. It's a full-blown training expo that provides training to our suppliers, but also best practices in supply diversity and what it means to NYPA. Program branding, how we brand supply diversity at NYPA. We're working on that with our internal corporate communications group and the supplier that understands supplier diversity. And we also have outside advertising on who NYPA is, not just in the supply diversity, but throughout our organization, where we take our internal people who are doing great work in supply diversity, who's doing great work at NYPA in transformation, in the, customer solutions, in EJ, and we take them and we put them in these magazines such as Diversity Professional Plus, Diversity Professional, and we showcase them. Nancy Harvey was in one, Daniela was in another, and we anticipate that Rob Piazza Group will be in one in, the spring. So doing more of that and bringing our internal customers, our internal folks, and making them a part of what we do on a daily basis. So as we look to 2022, in January, implement the surety bonding training program. So right now, the pilot and everything is being worked on. Want to start to implement that in 2022. The mentoring program, begin the scope of work for that, so that by the spring, and we have to work with EJ, somewhere out there, Lisa Wansley's working. Lisa Wansley, as you know, has the P-TECH program and the other programs she's working with students. Gil always spoke about how we needed a pipeline. Who better to start that pipeline with them with supply diversity? We have the suppliers that we work with. Let's start with them and let them be that pipeline for those programs. So we work with them, we start that program. February of 2022, we begin boot camps out in Western New York with the LIST Corporation. We're working with them. Small business pilot program begins in February 22 as well. Also, Western New York and the North Country. That's where we have the greatest need. In fall of 2022, the Mentor Protege program should begin to look at what they learned from their pilot program. They should begin to have the full-blown application process to start the program. So I know that sounds like a lot, but with that new staff that you put in place, they're ready. So I want to leave you with some things. Most importantly, now that the program has an outreach arm, a business development arm, a programmatic arm, and that compliance arm that NYPA has had since 1983. And now you have an internal champions arm. It's imperative that the support of the program continues throughout the organization, not just from the top, because it's been here, but throughout the organization. Diversity, equity, and inclusion in the supply chain is just not a fancy term. It's going to be the oxygen that ensures that the goals that we set for ourselves, that double the spend for MWBEs throughout the next 5 years, that it happens. The program team and the business development team, they can ensure that we increase awareness in the community through events. They can do that. They can do it through training. They can do it through boot camps. They can do it through awareness. We can advertise and participate in events. We can get feedback from suppliers. We can talk to suppliers who request conversations after they get their RFPs. They can request debriefs. We can talk to them about what happened. But no amount of participation by suppliers in the Mentor Protege program, in the small business program, or even in building their capacity through a surety bonding training program will help if we don't continue to embrace supply chain diversity within the organization and with each of our suppliers. As I often heard Gil say, how he has opined on this, and you all heard him say it, it's not a sprint, it's a journey. You've heard him say this. One, our suppliers and our community desire to partake as our partners. They want to be partners with us in this. I know this because Jerome Duval, he's the new executive director at Empire State Development, has new plans on certification across the state. He has new plans on how to make change. He's reaching out to NYPA and our own VP in procurement. He wants to partner with John Canale on how to make these changes happen. He's not just looking to the MTA and DASNY because those were the best, that's what the best folks in town before. NYPA is the best place in town now. They're reaching out to NYPA for this. He's calling John on the phone. He wants to talk to John about how to do this. We're NYPA. We set goals. We make goals. We surpass goals. But this goal requires all of us to embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion as a business practice. The stage is set, the framework is in place, and we are at the precipice. This is our story to write. Suppliers will not decide our success. We will. So before I wrap it up, I'd like to thank our president and CEO, Mr. Gil Quinones, for his leadership and guidance, and most importantly, for allowing me, the South Philly girl, to participate in working on his 10-point DEI plan. This was an honor and privilege to be a member of your working group. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
So just as I asked Nancy, Victoria, a great report, and I appreciate the work that you're doing and just assessing what's been accomplished over the last year. And as you said, even during COVID. So the training that you reference in your material, that's the external, is how we reach out to potential suppliers who will then go through the formal process that's set out by the state to be able to contract with us. What's your assessment of how this is being embraced internally? You talked a little bit about, because it's important that there's an understanding, and I know there are procurement professionals who will do assessments when proposals come in for contracts that we're issuing. How do you see the embrace internally of the organization around the importance of figuring out how we can diversify our supplier base? What's your view on how that's being received throughout the workforce?
I think that it's being received well. Once you tell people what you want from them and you show them, they'll help you, they'll come. We have staff in canals that are not as close to this as the staff at NYPA. They're all in this. They have tons of ideas. And once they hear us talk about it, once they see what we're doing, that we're serious about it, they're calling us up and saying, okay, this is what you want? Well, okay, I can help you with that.
Right.
And as we talk about it and as we tell them, and we have champions, we took the roadshow to every EMC member and they provided us with champions within their groups. And those champions are what we're going to use to spread the word.
Okay,
So
great. Okay, thank you.
It's exciting. Any other
Anybody
questions?
else?
How have you been building your relationship within communities, right? Outside of NYPA?
I love when you ask me questions like that. I love when you ask me questions. As we started to have this conversation, I came from Empire State Development, so I know a lot of people on the other side. I started making phone calls. So I started making phone calls with my friends at ESD that worked in the North Country, because I know in the North Country, well, I always tell the story and you'll hear emotion in my voice. When we started the Smart Path Project, I rode I drove up to Messina, and I live in New Haven because I wanted to see for myself. Because when I worked on the other side, I did compliance, I audited programs, and we had to place goals on contracts. And I have a legal background as well, so I know what the law says. I don't arbitrarily put goals on contracts. I review them, I assess them, and I determine the appropriate goal. So I know that there are minimal M's and W's, SDVOBs, and small businesses in certain parts of the state. So I wanted to go see for myself. So I drove from New Haven, Connecticut, up to Messina. And it broke my heart as I drove up there. And I'll always tell a story how I was outside of the mall that's close to the plant. And outside of that mall, there's I guess it's a J.C. Penney's. And at about 12:30 in the afternoon, there was 2 cars in the parking lot. There were 2 cars in the entire parking lot. There were more cars in the parking lot of the casino next to the hotel I stayed at than was in the parking lot at 12:30 at J.C. Penney's. And all I kept thinking about the whole time I was driving there was, can I stop at every house and knock on the door and say, there's a Smart Path project coming up here. Please get a food truck, get something, do something. There's jobs coming. Please do something. And it stuck in my head. And whenever I think about anything to do, I'm thinking about, how do I bring jobs to the northern part of the state? How do I bring jobs to anything in that area? And when I go out to West New York, I do the same thing. I drive. I often don't take public transportation. I drive because I want to see for myself. So when I think about that, I want to work with organizations. So when we started this, the first place I did was I called Valerie White. She takes care of the Local Initiative Corporation in New York City, put me in touch with some people. I call my friends that work in local organizations. I get in touch with people that I know from ESD. They put me in touch with people from the governor's office, and we had an event, and I was able to speak to our current governor. Hochul, from some of her staff, they put me in touch with some contacts, and those contacts put me in touch with other people. And that's what I do. I try to make contacts. So when we have these events, I'm always looking for economic development, because it's all about economic development. And my idea is consistently, yes, we need MWBEs, we need SDVOBs, but we need that local small business. If I can help them, then I can get to an M and a W. Then they can consider moving, starting a business, doing that. But you need the local, the small. It has to start there first. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Be happy to help you connect in Central New York.
Thank you, Victoria.
And Lisa Wansley from EJ is next.
Thanks.
Carly, is Lisa?
I think she was on this.
I can see her.
She's in Albany. Lisa, can you unmute yourself, please?
I can see her there.
Yeah.
Sarah, can you have someone call Lisa? Christina or Eve, do you want to set the stage while we wait for Lisa's mic to work?
Good morning.
There you go.
Go ahead,
Can you hear
Lisa.
me?
Yes.
Start the video.
Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. As you know, I'm Lisa Payne Wansley, and I'm the Vice President of Environmental Justice. Our team is responsible for 3 outward-facing DEI initiatives for which there is an identifiable community need, and augments already existing EJ initiatives, which have all been developed by engaging those underserved communities, share our assets, and providing much-needed support to these communities. The expansion of our programs under DEI has allowed us to work on building an inclusive talent pipeline, as well as grow our commitment to EJ communities across the state. I am proud to say that my team has taken an aggressive approach to ensure that all programs were launched during this past year. We have been able to achieve much success, and as the dashboard indicates, we've met all of our goals this year. Under the umbrella of broadening community-based STEM, student internship and mentorship, we have two initiatives: the Future Energy Leaders Scholarship Program and the Pathways in Technology Early College Program, or PTEC. Since December, the Future Energy Leaders Scholarship Program was designed in close cooperation with our legal department. We have selected 3 industry partners and 2 community partners to administer our scholarship: the American Association of Blacks in Energy, the National Society of Black Engineers, the National Action Council for Minorities in Engineering, the Eagle Academy for Young Men, and United Neighborhood House are our selected partners for 2021. In June 2021, we awarded 10 $10,000 scholarships. We are currently reviewing final reports from all of our administrative partners, which we do in October. And this review is crucial for us since this was our inaugural year. We will incorporate lessons learned and improvement suggestions from our partners into our plan for 2022. And we will also assess our partners and revise our list of partners accordingly for the next year. Under PTEC is an innovative, internationally acclaimed program which partners a high school, a community college, and an industry partner to provide unique college educational experience to high school students, allowing them to graduate from high school and earn an associate's degree in a STEM-related field. In 2021, NYPA established PTEC partnerships with 3 schools: Energy Tech High School in Queens, whose college partner is LaGuardia Community College; B Solar High School in Buffalo, whose college partner is Erie County Community College; and the Oneida Herkimer Madison BOCES in the Mohawk Valley, whose college partner is Mohawk Valley Community College. We began by providing 6-week, mostly virtual internships this summer for 15 students. They worked in 3 teams. The students completed projects that had a business need for NYPA. Each student was assigned a NYPA mentor, and each group was assigned a NYPA employee who served as a project facilitator. Each group made a site visit to the NYPA facility closest to them. At the end of the internship, students did a hybrid in-person and virtual presentation. Group 1 from Queens did a solar and battery storage project for their high school building. Group 2 from Buffalo did a customer energy audit for Feedmore, New York, one of NYPA's customers. And Group 3 from Central New York did a fleet electrification analysis for NYPA. There are plans to onboard 3 additional schools in January. The areas of the state that will be targeted are Niagara Falls, Northern New York, and either Staten Island or the Bronx. During the summer of 2022, we plan to host 30 interns, and for the first time, we will place 15 of the students with select customers and suppliers. As Victoria mentioned, we're developing the customer and supplier part of the program as we speak. This is our first full academic year working with each school under PTEC. We have a commitment to work with them on career mentoring, skills mapping, and curriculum input. We are currently developing a NYPA PTEC Career Academy for each school, which will provide NYPA mentors for each school, and my team is developing a series of workshops which will be implemented at the whole school. We also recently hired an additional program coordinator whose primary responsibilities will be giving dedicated support to the PTEC program. Our final initiative, the Environmental Justice Community Volunteer Corps, has had a slower start due to COVID-19. Although the goal was to design and implement 6 projects per year, we amended our goal earlier this year to execute 2 activities during Q3 and Q4. We're happy to report that we will have 3 of these projects completed by the end of the year. In June, NYPA employees participated in a harvest day at Feedmore, New York in Buffalo. 5 NYPA employees participated. In August, we hosted a family education day at the Messina Housing Authority. 60 community members attended and 6 NYPA staff members, including our very own trustee, Judge McAndry, participated in this event. And on Friday, this Friday, October 22nd, we plan a community harvest day with New York Sunworks, our partner with the Green Classrooms Initiative in New York City. For the past 3 weeks, New York Sunworks has a pop-up space in Lower Manhattan. We are taking 30 NYPA volunteers there this Friday to harvest produce and we will deliver to our children's shelter and food pantry in Long Island City. We're presently working on a full schedule of events for 2022 on a bi-monthly basis. At the brilliant suggestion of Daniela Piper, we are also going to execute one event called Employee Choice, where we will ask NYPA employees to nominate a project from their communities, and we will select one project next year to implement. In addition to all that I've mentioned, under our DEI commitment, EJ has expanded our capacity for our STEM offerings and our adult education series. We've also added 2 more employees who will greatly add to our capacity to deliver programs. We appreciate the support of executive management and the Board of Trustees. The communities we serve are greatly enhanced by our efforts. And in addition, I echo both Nancy and Victoria in saying I appreciate also the leadership of Gil during this time, not only with the DEI efforts, but also in helping us to build a very robust EJ program over the last 6 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Anybody have any questions of Lisa? Thanks for the update, Lisa. Thank you. This was an update and no voters required. The next item is Steve Palacian and Shirley Marine on Vision 2030 Resource Alignment Strategic Pillar Update. Steve?
Yes, hello. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me here. I'm happy to present to all of you. I'm going to be presenting today on the foundational pillar for resource alignment. I'm the VP of HR and Organizational Development, and I'm here with Shirley Marine.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Trustees, EMC, and my NYPA colleagues. My name is Shirley Marine, and I am the VP of Enterprise Shared Services, and I manage the process excellence function in the resource alignment pillar.
Yeah, and we're excited to talk to you today about our resource alignment pillar and all the work we've been doing. Resource alignment is all about our employees, which is truly foundational as they are the key to our success. NYPA's legacy has been built upon the hard work, ingenuity, and can-do attitude of our employees for nearly a century. So we take this responsibility seriously and look forward to carrying the legacy forward, evolving it, and setting up our employees for success in achieving Vision 2030. Next slide, please. The resource alignment foundational pillar is made up of 3 tactics: workforce planning, which is how we attract, engage, and inspire a skilled and diverse workforce. And we're involved a lot with the DEI initiatives. Also, knowledge management, which is really about getting the right information in front of the right people at the right time. And as Shirley mentioned, process excellence, optimizing NYPA's core business processes and instilling culture of continuous improvement across the organization. And Shirley will be talking more about that in a minute. Next slide, please. Tactic A, workforce planning, really builds on the accomplishments of realizing NYPA's strategic vision 2020. That initial strategic vision really set us up for being able to do more of the advanced work and projects we're doing today. The goal of this tactic is really about empowering employees to engage with their career development, leveraging NYPA's new values to connect employees with each other and the organization, build a resilient and inclusive culture, and raise leaders' acumen for engaging and developing team members. Over the course of the past year, we've taken on a variety of projects and initiatives to advance in these areas. One of our biggest and most ambitious projects is to develop a career path framework for the organization, which will create a transparent view of career opportunities for all employees. The work we've done on that in 2021 was really a little bit of the behind the scenes work on redoing our organization's job architecture, updating job families, disciplines, and levels. And that's just the first step of that project. In the finished state, an employee will be able to go into an application, once they join the organization, and be able to see.
Finding Nemo. I love that movie. I used to
Mute their
Yesterday. Yesterday, first time I want to say in over 30 years, me and my wife watched the Looney Tunes part.
I think someone needs to mute. Okay. Sorry about that. I guess a little technical challenge. As I was mentioning, in the finished state, an employee will be able to go into an application and see horizontal and vertical career opportunities and the skills needed to achieve them. Activating our values through action, education, and communication will be key for enhancing our culture and driving performance to Vision 2030. We worked closely with our communications team in 2021 to have a spring communications effort focused on our values. We also conducted an org-wide trivia with over 800 employees participating. We had EMC culture check-ins and designed a Vision 2030 messaging toolkit. Leveraging one of our other big initial steps as we bring these programs forward is leveraging intelligent technologies to create more engaging experience. Developing programs and doing all the great work we're doing is fantastic, but it's equally important we are engaging our employees and even future employees in the best way possible, putting our best foot forward. With that in mind, we're currently in the process of selecting software tools to incorporate gamification, which will support the way employees engage with our development programs, hiring intelligence, which will provide a better and inclusive candidate experience, and a career pathing tool. And that's a lot of our big ticket items and the work we've been doing in 2021. So looking forward to 2022 on workforce planning. Next slide, please. In 2022, we're again building on everything that we've done in 2021. For career pathing, we'll be building out pilot groups, career pathing framework through technical competency development. We'll also be initiating a skill set gap assessment to see where we are now as compared to where we need to be as we look forward to Vision 2030 and the skills that are going to be needed to realize that vision. Also, in regards to bringing our values forward, the glue that brings our organization together, we are going to be communicating the Vision 2030 messaging toolkit that's been put in place, or that's been developed, I should say. And we're also going to be launching a Eureka Innovation 2022 competition, which we ran a few years ago. And even though the competition, we haven't ran for a year, it is an ongoing program and we're getting new ideas all the time. And in fact, today there's an event going on that was in regards to a Eureka Innovation idea up in Albany. So we're going to continue to embed our values into our communication strategy 2022 going forward and really let that be the flag we bear forward in realizing Vision 2030. We're also going to be enhancing our existing people management processes. We're going to be implementing a new learning strategy that's really focused on experiential development. And we're also enhancing our succession planning program, really aligning with business continuity planning process. So it's a lot of work to be done. Just as all the initiatives you're hearing, it's been really exciting. And as in workforce planning is going to be continuing to support our employees and the organization forward. Next slide. Knowledge management, similar to workforce planning, was building off of NYPA strategic.
Let me interrupt you for a minute.
Oh, yeah, sure, of course.
You can read this on the screen. Can you just give us kind of an overview of what's going to be on the screen, and instead of just reading it to us, because we can read it for ourselves.
Okay, yeah. Well, absolutely. So, I mean, knowledge management, one of the key areas, what we want to do is it's been a transformational year in regards to knowledge management and really creating a knowledge sharing culture by enabling peer-to-peer education. So what we've done is we've taken programs that have been put in place that were a little bit more static, and we've created more engaging experiences, really connecting people in using social learning. And it allows us to expand the circle of the people who capture the knowledge and framework. So we've had a great year really bringing in these new programs. We've also We started creating communities of practice and are also bringing in leveraging social learning for lessons learned, where we're taking different project teams that have similar challenges so they can learn from each other and take advantage of the information if one of the teams has a lesson learned. So that's a new way of really not just looking at an individual project and seeing, looking at an individual project and seeing just lessons learned from like that one lens. What we're doing is we're bringing broader views so other teams in real time can learn from those lessons and actually be able to maybe avoid a challenge that another team had, or take advantage of something that worked really well. And then in addition to that, with enterprise content management, we're really looking at a way to, it's another ambitious effort, similar to career pathing in some ways, not in the work itself, but in its ambition, and that we want to change the way we collect and organize information in the organization. And that's really going to be another real-time way of capturing information that employees are using on a daily basis to get work done, and then it also passes knowledge forward. Next slide. So going forward in 2022, what we're looking to do is build off the success we've had with our knowledge transfer program this year, and we're going to be introducing a new knowledge partner role. And what's great about this is it also creates a development opportunity for a high performer to work closely with a subject matter expert. So not only is this person going to be shepherding the process of capturing that knowledge and wisdom, but they're also going to be getting exposure in development at the same time. And it also makes it more scalable. So we want to make sure whatever programs we bring into the organization are actually scalable and sustainable to move forward into the organization into the future, and becomes a little bit of the way we capture information, we share it, and we develop our employees. And then in regards for enterprise content management, we'll be finalizing the charter, and then we're exploring a software tool, which is extended enterprise content management, that will actually be a software tool to connect content management solutions across the organization. So we're trying to leverage technology to change the way people work and save their information so it's easily accessible in the future. Those are the two tactics that I was going to be speaking to, and tactic C will be process excellence and Shirley Marine.
Great, thank you, Stephen. And as Stephen mentioned, our overall goal in process excellence is to optimize business processes and instill a culture of continuous improvement. And we are achieving this by focusing on these three goals on the left. For building enterprise-based competencies and application, we want to create a continuous improvement mindset by building internal capabilities so staff can independently create efficiencies and improve project delivery. Building base capabilities are important because we can't improve every process in the organization. So using the methods of tools of Lean, Six Sigma, and Agile, we will teach new skills that drive change in how we work. We teach techniques that can be implemented right after the training, so it's just not theory. These are industry best practice, they're easy, they're applicable. It is also intended to empower our employees to be better equipped to solve problems and to be part of the solution in their own work. We also teach how to take big projects and commit to tasks in smaller increments for completing work in a shorter time frame. And with feedback, iterate for the next cycle of tasks to deliver, which is the agile way of working. After the training, we invite our trained employees, our yellow belts, to join a team group and community to keep them engaged in workshops and activities. We pull them in to work on larger projects to enhance their experience, increase collaboration and adoption. Year to date, we have trained 335 employees. On the second goal, we will implement expert level process improvement on high impact value areas. The focus here is to have my team of experts work to ensure we are optimizing end-to-end function leading to improved savings, an approach based on potential benefits to business units and stakeholders in driving either revenue generation or retention, capacity savings, cycle time, or risk reduction, just to name a few. We have a prioritization framework that allows us to categorize and select projects with greater value and impact. These projects require expert level oversight where we use various improvement methodologies. And these are the projects that typically would fail because they cross business unit and need an organized expert to help the team make decisions and bring the project over the finish line. Engaging groups on cross-functional improvements will further identify pain points and opportunities and enhance the overall process. And lastly, process optimization for automation opportunities. When we're working on these cross-functional projects, we want to look for opportunities to automate. We are digitizing process maps. We have identified opportunities for automation across 2 business units and more to come. We select processes that have the most business unit involvement, complexity based on systems, and hour it takes to complete a task. So opportunities for automation will increase as we expose synergies across functions. Next slide, please. As we look ahead for 2022, we will continue to teach, work with teams on the tools and improvement projects. And as we increase touch points across the organization, we are building knowledge and creating champions as our force multiplier that go on to share within their own teams and so on. We will share progress with business unit leaders so they encourage usage of these tools within their group. And for the targeted prioritization projects, these will be ongoing. We will work with business leaders to make sure we are focused on the processes that matter to them, and we can adjust accordingly. And again, these are quality processes that give us the most value and impact. And lastly, we will work on improvements. Some will not require scientific methodologies where we can implement low effort technical solutions. We will do that, such as creating a form or implementing some sort of standardization that will reduce duplication or rework. And where we can bundle repetitive tasks for maximum automation, we will engage IT to implement complex IT solutions. What we do will add value and drive efficiencies in every improvement opportunity, and we will move the needle in the right direction. Any questions?
All set.
Thank you. Shirley, appreciate it. This is an update and no vote is required. Next item is to recognize Chairman Hamel.
Thanks very much, Judge. Excuse me briefly, but very significantly, as everyone's aware, Gil submitted his resignation a week ago, and as was announced last week, we appointed Justin Driscoll as our interim president and CEO, and he in turn has appointed Lori Alessio as our interim general counsel. So want to submit 2 motions to the committee and ultimately your recommendation up to us as a full board to formally adopt those 2, or formally appoint Justin and Lori. So thanks, Michael.
Oh, yes, I guess all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those 2 are adopted. Congratulations to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, that's still subject to board approval, but yes, thank you very much.
Made it out of the governance committee.
Right.
One step at a time.
Next item is the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes and everything else is listed. I'd ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The consent agenda is adopted. The next meeting will be scheduled by the secretary.
You need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn the governance committee meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.